Your washing machine is destroying your clothes in slow motion, and you're paying for the privilege. The detergent you trust? It's not cleaning your clothes, it's coating them in synthetic compounds that trap bacteria, accelerate fiber breakdown, and produce the sour smell you keep blaming on your machine. Meanwhile, in Japan, where apartments average 51 square meters, clothes last twice as long, utility costs run 38% lower, and households report 61% fewer garment replacements per year. They're not using better machines. They're not buying better detergent. They know something about laundry that was never on the label of anything you've ever bought. These are 15 of those things. 15. Shio to KO. The pre-soak that locks color before the first wash. Most people lose nearly half of a garment's original color within the first 10 washes, not because the detergent is aggressive, because they never locked the dye in the first place. In Japan, new dark clothing, navy, deep red, black, never goes directly into the washing machine. It goes through Shio to Ko first, the salt and vinegar pre-soak. Here is the exact method. Fill a basin with cold water, not warm, cold. Add half a cup of white vinegar and 2 tablespoons of non-iodized sea salt. Submerge the new garment completely and soak for 30 minutes minimum, 2 hours for heavily dyed items like raw denim or dark jersey knits. The chemistry is precise. Vinegar is acetic acid. It lowers the pH of the water, which causes dye molecules already embedded in the fiber to contract and bond more tightly with the thread. Salt acts as a mordant, a mineral compound that creates an ionic bridge between the dye and the fabric structure. Together they don't add color. They lock in the color that is already there. This is not folk wisdom. Starch and mineral fixation for textile dye has been documented in East Asian fabric preservation going back to the Chosun dynasty in Korea and the Edo period in Japan, where artisans used similar salt-based baths to preserve the deep indigo of kimono fabric across decades of use. Bonus, the vinegar also neutralizes the manufacturing chemicals left on new clothing. The formaldehyde-based anti-wrinkle resins used in most mass-market garments that irritate skin and begin breaking down fiber from first contact with hot water. Japanese homemakers do this as a matter of course. It takes 30 minutes of soaking and 0 effort. Your new clothes are not factory fresh. They are chemically coated. The pre-soak is how you actually start fresh. 14. Jyushoku no Katachi. The load architecture that cleans every item better without more detergent. You're loading your washing machine wrong, not randomly wrong, systematically wrong in a way that leaves items in the center of your drum consistently undercleaned on every single cycle. In Japan, the way you build a load is considered as important as the temperature and cycle you choose. This is called Jyushoku no Katachi, the shape of the load. Here is how Japanese households load a washer for maximum cleaning efficiency. Heavy items, jeans, towels, sweatshirts, go in first, distributed evenly around the drum in a ring. Medium items, shirts, casual pants, leggings, fill in the middle. Delicates and lightweight items, underwear, socks, thin fabrics, go in last, loosely placed toward the center. This architecture creates a centrifugal washing pattern. As the drum rotates, the heavier outer items generate water turbulence that reaches inward, agitating lighter items without overstressing them. The heavies clean through mechanical friction against the drum. The delicates clean through the water movement the heavies generate, without ever making direct contact with the drum wall. The logic is simple physics. An asymmetric, randomly loaded drum creates dead zones, areas where water circulates poorly, and garments press against each other without agitation. Those dead zones are where your shirts come out still carrying yesterday's residue. The bonus, evenly distributed loads, reduced drum imbalance, less vibration, less noise. A machine that lasts years longer because it isn't fighting an asymmetric load hundreds of times a year. Don't throw your laundry in, build it. 13. Tsumatai Mizu no chikara the cold water protocol that outperforms. Hot. You've been told your whole life that hot water kills bacteria in laundry. It does. But it also shrinks fabrics, sets stains permanently, fades colors, and uses roughly 90% more energy than a cold wash. And here is the part that doesn't make it onto detergent labels. Cold water, under the right conditions, removes more bacteria than hot. Japanese laundry science distinguishes between bacteria that are heat-killed and bacteria that are mechanically removed. Most laundry pathogens, the ones that cause odor and fiber degradation, fall into the second category. They don't need heat to die. They need agitation and dilution to be physically lifted off the fiber and rinsed away. Tsumetai Mizu no chikara, the power of cold water, is the Japanese practice of optimizing the cold wash, rather than defaulting to hot. The method: use cold water with a detergent specifically formulated for low-temperature enzyme activation. These have been standard in the Japanese market since the 1990s. The enzymes in them, protease, lipase, amylase, break down the protein, fat, and starch compounds in body soil at temperatures below 30 degrees. Run a longer agitation cycle at low speed rather than a short cycle at high speed. The result, extended mechanical action at cold temperature, removes more residue from fiber than a short, aggressive hot wash, without the thermal damage that shrinks elastane, sets stains, and locks dye molecules in their faded configuration. In Japan, cold washes account for over 70% of household laundry cycles. Hot water is reserved for white cotton, specific sanitization needs, and heavily soiled workwear. For everything else, cold and long beats hot and fast, every single time. 12. Kafu no nage, the drip-dry shake, that eliminates wrinkles before they form. Wrinkles in your clothes are not created during drying. They are set during drying, from the position the fabric was already in when heat or airflow reached it, which means if you address the fabric's position before it dries, you eliminate the wrinkle before it forms, not iron it out after. Prevent it entirely. This is kafu no nage, the throw of the fabric, a Japanese laundry practice that takes 15 seconds per garment and eliminates ironing in the majority of cases. Remove the garment from the wash while still wet. Hold it by the shoulders with both hands. Snap it sharply 3 times. A fast, controlled snap that creates a brief tension wave through the entire fabric. The snap should be decisive, not gentle. You will feel the fabric resist and then settle flat. Then hang immediately, pulling seams straight and smoothing the collar flat with your palm before placing on the hanger. The mechanism is tensile resetting. When a wet fabric is placed under rapid tension, the polymer chains within the fiber temporarily realign in the direction of the force. If the fabric dries in that realigned state, hanging straight, seams pulled, collar smoothed, the wrinkles that form during the spin cycle are overridden by the snap-induced alignment. Without the snap, the fabric goes onto the hanger in the compressed, twisted state the spin cycle left it in. It dries in that state, the wrinkles are set. With the snap, the fabric goes onto the hanger in an aligned flat state. It dries in that state. The ironing board stays folded. Japanese homemakers do this as automatically as placing the garment on the hanger. 15 seconds per item, costs nothing, changes everything about how your clothes look when they dry. 11. Katachi no hogo, the hanger system that stops shape distortion. The hanger you're using is destroying the shape of your clothes, one hanging cycle at a time. A standard wire or thin plastic hanger concentrates the entire weight of a garment on 2 small pressure points at the shoulder seam. A few millimeters of contact area on each side, carrying the full load of the fabric as it hangs and dries. Over time, permanent shoulder bumps, stretched seams, the specific shape distortion that makes a shirt look wrong without being visibly damaged. In Japan, this problem was addressed at the design level. Katachi no hogo, shape protection, is the Japanese practice of matching the hanger to the garment's construction rather than using one universal hanger for everything. Knitwear, sweaters, and heavy jerseys are never hung vertically. They are folded over a thick, rounded hanger horizontally. The hanger sits across the torso of the folded garment, distributing weight across the entire body of the item rather than concentrating it at the shoulder points. Gravity pulls the garment down evenly from a wide contact surface instead of from two small ones. Structured shirts and blazers use curved hangers whose shoulder width approximates the garment's actual shoulder measurement. A shoulder that's wider than the hanger creates pressure inward. One that's narrower creates the bump outward. The match matters. Trousers hang from the hem rather than the waistband. A clip at each ankle allows gravity to pull the crease downward through the entire leg as the fabric dries, smoothing the panel flat without any ironing. None of this requires expensive equipment. It requires understanding that the hanger is not neutral. It is either preserving the shape or slowly dismantling it, one hanging cycle at a time. 10. Nori no chikara. The rice water starch that firms fabric without chemicals. The stiffening agent in commercial spray starch is a synthetic polymer compound. It temporarily firms fabric. It also attracts airborne dust, progressively clogs fiber weave, and leaves a faint yellow cast on collars and cuffs after repeated use. The yellow that appears on white dress shirts and makes them look aged when they aren't. Japan has been using a different stiffening agent for centuries, one that strengthens fabric, reduces static, and produces no residue buildup. Nori no chikara, the power of starch, is the traditional Japanese practice of using rice water as a fabric finishing rinse. After rinsing uncooked rice before cooking, which you should be doing regardless, do not discard the water. Collect it in a bowl. The water will be slightly cloudy from the starch. Dilute it with an equal volume of clean water. Use this as the final rinse for cotton dress shirts, linen items, and any garment where structure and shape retention matter. Rice starch has been documented as a textile finishing agent across East Asia for centuries. In Japan, the glutinous rice starch known as nori was historically used as a preferred garment stiffener, specifically because of its non-destructive quality. Unlike many synthetic agents, it does not degrade the fiber it stiffens over time. Alibaba. The rice starch coats surface fibers with a natural polymer layer that firms the fabric, reduces static cling, and creates slight surface resistance that makes the garment wrinkle more slowly during wear and recover its shape faster after washing. The starch washes out with the next cycle, leaving no accumulation, no yellowing, no fiber damage, and the source material is the water you were going to discard anyway. The best fabric finisher in your laundry room was always in your kitchen. 9. Kaori no fukuro, the cedar sachets that replace dryer sheets permanently. Dryer sheets work by coating fabric in a thin layer of synthetic fragrance compounds and lubricating agents. They reduce static. They add scent. They also leave residue on your dryer's lint filter that reduces airflow efficiency with each cycle, and on your clothes, a chemical film that accumulates in fiber with repeated use. Japan eliminated dryer sheets not by finding a cleaner chemical substitute, but by solving the problem at a different stage entirely. Kaori no fukuro, the scent sachet, is the Japanese practice of managing fabric freshness during storage rather than during the wash. Small fabric pouches filled with dried cedar chips, dried lavender, and dried hinoki cypress shavings are placed in every drawer section and hanging area. One sachet per zone, refreshed every 3 months with light sanding or a drop of essential oil. Cedar contains natural oils, cedrol and thujopsine, that are genuinely antimicrobial, actively repel moth larvae and textile mites, and transfer a mild woody scent to surrounding fabrics through vapor diffusion rather than direct chemical contact. Hinoki cypress adds antifungal properties, the same compounds used in traditional Japanese bathing culture for their natural antimicrobial effect. The sachets don't coat the fabric. They create a clean air storage environment that the fabric sits in. The garment absorbs the ambient quality of the space rather than a chemical applied directly to the fiber. No dryer residue, no lint filter coating, no synthetic fragrance compounds on your skin all day. Your clothes don't need to be chemically scented. They need to be stored in air that smells like it should. 8. Nurete iru uchi. Ni. The damp state shaping that sets knit form permanently. The shape of a knit garment is not fixed. It is fluid when wet and set when dry, which means the shape your sweater dries in is the shape it holds, for better or worse, until the next time it gets wet. Most Western laundry routines ignore this completely. Knits come out of the wash, get wrung or spun, and are either hung, which stretches the shoulders under gravity as the wet garment pulls downward, or tumbled in a dryer, which rolls them into random compressed shapes under heat. Whatever shape the fabric lands in when the heat stops is the shape it keeps. Japanese textile care treats the damp state as the most important moment in the entire washing cycle, because it is the only moment when the shape can be intentionally set rather than accidentally set. Nurete iru uchi ni, while it is still wet, is the practice of blocking knit garments before drying. Remove the garment from the wash before the final spin cycle, while still heavy with water. Lay it flat on a clean, dry towel. Reshape by hand to its original dimensions. Pull the hem to the correct length, set the sleeves to the right width, flatten the collar and neckline. Place a second towel on top and roll both towels together with the garment inside. Press firmly along the entire roll to transfer excess moisture into the towels. Unroll. Lay the garment flat on a mesh drying rack or a clean, dry surface. Leave it completely undisturbed until dry. The garment dries in the exact shape you set. Not the shape the spin cycle left it in, the shape you gave it with your hands in 30 seconds. No hanger bumps, no stretched necklines, no sleeves that are an inch longer than they were when you bought it. 7. Mushi no teki. The natural moth protection system for seasonal storage. Every year, garments are quietly destroyed in storage, not by age, not by accident, but by moth larvae. Specifically Tineola bicelliella, whose larvae feed exclusively on keratin protein found in wool, cashmere, silk, and down. The Western response: cedar balls, mothballs, or sealed plastic storage. Cedar balls lose their efficacy within weeks as the oil evaporates and the surface seals over. Mothballs release naphthalene, a compound classified as a possible human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Sealed plastic traps moisture and creates the conditions for mildew. Japan developed a protection system that addresses the actual biology of the pest rather than attempting to gas it out. Mushi no teki, the enemy of moths, is a 4-layer storage protocol. First, every garment going into seasonal storage is washed immediately before storage, not after. Moth larvae are not attracted to clean fabric. They are attracted to body oils, food residues, and perspiration, the organic material left on worn, unwashed clothing. Clean clothes are dramatically less attractive to egg-laying moths. This one step eliminates the primary reason moths target stored clothing. Second, garments are loosely wrapped in washi paper, traditional Japanese mulberry paper, before folding into the storage container. Washi is naturally slightly acidic and creates a surface that moth eggs do not adhere to as readily as bare fabric. Third, sachets of dried cloves, dried orange peel, and black pepper are placed throughout the container. The aromatic compounds in all three, eugenol, limonene, and piperine, are naturally occurring moth deterrents, strong enough to discourage egg-laying, gentle enough to leave no trace on fabric. Fourth, the container is opened and aired every 3 months, not annually. Moths aren't defeated by a single barrier. They're defeated by consistent attention. Moths don't destroy stored clothes because you used the wrong chemical. They destroy them because the clothes weren't clean enough to store and weren't checked often enough to catch the problem early. Wesses. 6. Shizuka na susogi, the second rinse that removes what your machine leaves behind. Most washing machines stop rinsing too early. The standard rinse cycle is calibrated to remove detergent residue to a commercially acceptable level, meaning a level that won't cause immediate skin irritation in the majority of users. It is not calibrated to remove all residue. After every wash, your clothes contain unreacted detergent compounds sitting in the fiber. Those compounds continue their chemical process between washes, which is oxidation. The fabric slowly weakens. The color slowly fades. The texture becomes stiffer and thinner over time, faster than the fiber composition should allow. The clothes aren't aging. They're being chemically degraded between washes by what the rinse didn't remove. Shizuka no susogi, the silent rinse, has been standard practice in Japanese high-efficiency households for decades. The method is exactly as simple as it sounds. After the standard wash cycle ends, before the final spin, run one additional cold rinse cycle with 0 additives, just water. Nothing else. This extra cycle removes the residual detergent that the standard single rinse left behind, the fraction that accounts for most of the between-wash chemical degradation, most of the skin irritation in sensitive individuals, and most of the progressive color loss that people attribute to the garment simply getting old. One extra rinse, no additive, no cost beyond a small additional water use per cycle. The rinse is not decoration. It is the most consequential step in the wash, and the one most machines run too briefly and most households never repeat. 5. Kuroi. Mono. No memory. The inside-out dark protocol. Every time a dark garment runs through a wash cycle, the agitation and friction of the drum rubs the outer surface of the fabric against itself, against other garments, and against the drum wall. This mechanical friction progressively breaks down the surface dye layer, load by load invisibly, until the garment looks faded without ever looking dirty. Kuroi mono no mamori, protection of dark things, is the Japanese practice of washing all dark garments inside out, in cold water, on a low agitation cycle, every time, without exception. Inside-out washing redirects friction from the outer dye-bearing surface to the inner surface, which has no visible color to lose. The dye layer never contacts the drum or other garments directly. It is protected on every cycle by the reversed fabric acting as its own barrier. The addition from Japanese laundry culture, dark garments are also air-dried inside out, in shade, rather than direct sunlight. UV radiation is the second largest cause of dye degradation after mechanical friction. Sunlight that reaches the inner surface during drying causes no visible fading. Sunlight that reaches the outer surface degrades color at the molecular level with every minute of exposure. 2 habits, 30 seconds of effort, applied consistently to every dark garment on every cycle. Your dark clothes don't fade because they're old. They fade because of 2 minutes of habits done slightly wrong, repeated hundreds of times. 4. Mizu no netsu, the temperature precision system. There is no universal correct water temperature for laundry. There is only the correct temperature for each specific fiber type. And using the wrong one is one of the primary causes of shrinkage, color loss, texture change, and permanent shape distortion. Most Western households use 1 or 2 temperature settings for everything. Japanese laundry culture uses a precise fiber-to-temperature match. Mizu no netsu, the heat of the water, is the Japanese practice of temperature precision as a basic competency, not an advanced option. Cold water, below 20 C, for dark synthetics, dark cottons, delicates, and anything labeled cold wash. This is the most common setting in Japanese homes for exactly this reason. Most garments fall into this category: warm water, 30 degrees, for lightly soiled light cotton, mixed fabric blends, and casual knits. This is also the temperature at which enzyme-based detergents reach their peak cleaning activation. Hot water at 40 degrees for white cotton, light linen, underwear, and household linens like pillowcases and kitchen towels that benefit from thermal sanitization. Nothing in a regular household requires the 60° or 90° settings on most machines. Those settings exist for specific commercial and medical applications. Running them on regular laundry sets stains permanently, destroys elastane in one cycle, and causes the specific fiber stiffening called hornification, irreversible cellulose crystallization that locks cotton fibers into a rigid conformation they cannot recover from. The garments that shrink, the colors that fade in the first wash, the elastic that never recovers, they were damaged not by the age of the machine or the quality of the detergent, but by a temperature setting chosen without thinking, applied to a fiber that couldn't handle it. Temperature is not a comfort preference. It is a decision with a consequence. 3. So no mamadi. Stop adding this to every load. Fabric softener is one of the most successfully marketed products in Western laundry history, and one of the most consistently damaging things you apply to your clothes on a regular basis. Here is what fabric softener actually does at a fiber level. It deposits a layer of cationic surfactants onto the surface of fabric fibers. These compounds are what create the soft, fluffy sensation. They are also hydrophobic, meaning they repel water, which means every time you use fabric softener on your towels, you are coating them in a substance that makes them progressively less capable of absorbing water. A study published in the Journal of Textile and Apparel Technology found that towels washed with liquid fabric softener lost up to 30% of their initial absorbency after just 15 wash cycles. The towel that feels luxuriously soft is, by that point, dramatically less functional as a towel. PubMed on athletic wear, the cationic coating traps body oils and bacteria inside the fiber structure, which is exactly why performance clothing that has been softener washed develops a permanent odor that no subsequent wash removes. The bacteria are embedded behind the coating. On cotton and linen, the residue accumulates in the fiber weave with each application, reducing breathability and turning a natural material into something that performs like a low-quality synthetic. In Japan, fabric softener use in functional households is near zero. Sonomama-de, as it is the Japanese principle of not adding what is not needed. The wash removes, the rinse clears, the dry restores. Nothing else is required. The replacement is simple and costs almost nothing. Half a cup of white vinegar in the rinse cycle. It neutralizes detergent alkalinity, which is what makes fabric feel stiff after washing. And it does this without coating the fiber, without reducing absorbency, and without leaving any residue. The vinegar smell disappears completely as the fabric dries. The softest towels in Japan are not soft because of what was added to the wash. They are soft because of what was never added. 2. Shizen-so. The sun disinfection method that replaces bleach. Chlorine bleach is effective. It is also one of the most fiber-destructive substances in the laundry room. Each bleach exposure breaks peptide bonds in cotton fiber, the molecular links holding the thread together. Fabric treated with bleach repeatedly becomes progressively thinner, weaker, and prone to tearing at stress points like seams, collar edges, and underarms. The whiteness bleach produces comes at the direct cost of the fabric's structural integrity. Japan addressed the disinfection requirement not with a chemical substitute, but with a physical one. Shizen-so, natural drying in sunlight, is the Japanese practice of using UV radiation as the primary disinfection method for laundry that requires sanitization beyond what the wash cycle alone provides. A peer-reviewed study published in PubMed evaluated the effectiveness of sun exposure on contaminated socks from patients with tinea pedis, a fungal infection. 52 contaminated samples were divided between a group exposed to 3 consecutive days of direct sunlight and a group kept indoors. The results showed a significantly higher increase in negative fungal cultures in the sun-exposed group, confirming that sun exposure was effective in lowering contamination rates, with the researchers concluding this finding supports low-temperature laundry practices combined with solar drying. The practical application, items that in Western households would receive a bleach treatment, white bathroom towels, kitchen cloths, children's clothing, are washed normally and then dried in direct sunlight. The UV handles the surface disinfection. The wash handles the cleaning. No chemicals required and no fiber degradation. Japanese households also use this deliberately for items that have developed mild mildew odor. A full day of direct sun exposure after washing eliminates the odor-causing mold at the surface level without any chemical contact. The limits are real and worth naming. UV disinfection is a surface mechanism. It doesn't penetrate deeply into embedded fiber contamination. It requires several hours of actual direct sunlight, and it works in combination with washing, not as a replacement for it. But for routine sanitization of items that would otherwise receive bleach, it is gentler, cheaper, and leaves the fabric structurally intact after years of use. Your bleach bottle is not your only option. The sun was doing this long before the bottle existed. 1. Sentaku no kokoro. The Japanese laundry mindset that makes everything else sustainable. This is not a technique. It is the principle that makes every other technique on this list, something you actually do rather than something you read about and forget. Sentaku no kokoro, the spirit of laundry. In Japanese home culture, laundry is not a burden to be compressed into the smallest possible time investment. It is an act of care for the fabric, for the home, for the person who wears the clothes. This is not romanticization. It is a practical distinction with practical consequences. The household that approaches laundry as care naturally reads the label before choosing a temperature, naturally shakes the garment before hanging, naturally brings the item in before the evening dew settles, naturally stores things properly because improperly stored clothing becomes a problem that requires more care to fix than it would have cost to prevent. None of these actions are effortful in isolation. They are, each of them, a few seconds. But they require a baseline orientation toward the process, one that treats the garment as something worth attending to rather than something to get through. The Western alternative is reactive laundry. The clothes pile up until they must be washed. The wash is done as quickly as possible. The result is processed and forgotten until the pile forms again. The garments in this system degrade faster, require replacement sooner, and generate more of the waste and expense that the system was designed to avoid. Reactive laundry is more expensive than attentive laundry, not in time. In outcomes, the garment is an investment. The wash is maintenance. Maintenance done with attention costs less than repair done in regret. Every hack on this list is a way of paying attention. Sentaku no kokoro is the reason you actually do. 15 hacks. Most of them cost nothing. All of them work. But the common thread beneath all of them, the thing Japanese laundry culture figured out that Western laundry culture hasn't, is this. The problem is almost never the washing machine, almost never the detergent, almost never that you need a better product, a more powerful cycle, or something new. The problem is information applied too late. Hot water that shrank the fiber before you knew better. Fabric softener used faithfully for years before anyone explained what it was doing to absorbency. Spin cycles run too fast before anyone told you what that was doing to elastane. Every hack on this list is a correction, a recalibration, something Japan figured out through generations of living carefully in small spaces with clothes that had to last. Pick one, apply it to the next load. Then tell me in the comments which one surprised you most, which one you've already been doing without knowing it had a name, which one you're most skeptical about. Subscribe, because every Wednesday and Saturday this channel goes deeper into what Japan figured out. See you next week.